Hi, this is Deborah Arca from the Pathos Book Club. And this month in the book club, we are featuring a beautiful new book called Becoming Catholic Again by Catherine Wicker Brunell. And Catherine's joining us this morning from Natick, Massachusetts. Good morning, Catherine.
Good morning. Thanks for having me.
We're so happy to be featuring this book and just wanted to ask you, just to begin with, just to tell us a little bit about this title, Becoming Catholic Again. What does that mean for you, and what inspired you to write this book?
First, thank you so much for having me. It's wonderful to be on this site. I found it accidentally one day when I was just looking for faith resources, and so it's honestly just wonderful to be here with you. And now to have my book here. The title "Becoming Catholic Again" was a work in progress because I didn't know how to name the book that would be authentic to what the book is talking about and also to the tradition that I'm a part of. And I thought to myself, through a few conversations with my husband and with the publisher, we came upon Becoming Catholic Again because while I've never had a dramatic moment where I've entirely left my faith or where I was, pursued a totally different faith tradition, there is a recommitment in myself to be on my spiritual journey. And what I've realized in writing this book, or why I wrote this book, was that I can only be on the spiritual path that is my life. And my life is, I'm a Catholic person. That's how I was raised. That's what I was given. It's all the tool sets that I know, and it's what feels most at home for me. And so I'm choosing to be Catholic again, and to be Catholic in the way that my life reveals.
That's beautiful. And we should also mention that your daughter Georgia is there in the background,
you hear her
cooing a little bit. So we should give her a little FaceTime. Hello, Georgia. She's having a little breakfast or lunch. There you go.
This is also her first Skype interview.
That's right. Yeah, and we should say your title or your bio on the back of the book. It says that you're a pastoral minister of the everyday, and I thought that was kind of interesting. And I was asking you just a little bit before we started recording. Are you a pastoral minister, and what does that really mean in the Catholic Church, and what do you mean you're a pastoral minister of the everyday?
Okay, so truthfully, when I wrote the book, I thought, wait, I don't really have a job title anymore. My kids, they'll tell you the things that I do. They'll give you a list of my job. So I thought about it, and I thought, well, where do I minister? I don't minister in a particular church or at a school right now. My ministry happens in the everyday moments of my life. And I think all of us, when we are leading a spiritual life, we're looking for meaning in things. And so the meaning that I find in things is what I encounter the most. And the most that I encounter with 4 small kids and a wonderful partner is the everyday.
Right. So a lot of this book, or this book really grew out of your own journey to kind of reconcile your questions, your frustration, your challenges with the Catholic Church.
Mm-hmm.
You obviously had you tell wonderful stories in the book, very funny stories about experiences in, Catholic school and in church, and they were very endearing. It made me feel like, it almost made me a little jealous, like, wow, you got a lot of really great religious education in the Catholic school, and very practical and very like social justice kind of oriented things. And yet, as you grew up, you still, as we all do, struggled and pushed back against some of the of the doctrines or the parts of the faith that felt like they weren't a fit. And you use that word in your book, that it wasn't.
Yeah.
You and the Catholic Church were not always a good fit. Tell me about that part of it. What was it that you struggled so much in the Catholic Church was, and how do you think your process of questioning has kind of brought you into a more, mature relationship with your own faith?
There were just moments in my life when my experience did not support what the church was telling me or saying was true in life. And so I thought, okay, the church is a wonderful organization, obviously thousands of years old. Its whole hope is to bring God into the world and to help people get to know Christ. And yet, some of the things that are coming from it seem painful to me and seem wrong with my experience, that love has to look a certain way, or that women can't have a role because of their gender. None of that made sense to me, and so I thought, can I really stay in this? Can I continue to participate in something that just does not resonate with my experience? Because, and I'm not talking about experiences that are way out of the norm. You know, I'm just talking about as a woman who feels a call to leadership. You know, so I thought to myself, how can how can I hold these things in tandem together? And yeah, so what I started to do is just try to stop being angry about it, and to realize that there are so many different layers of the church, and that essentially what I want the church to be is my spiritual tool. I want to have the tools of Catholicism to be on my spiritual path. And if I can use the tools as such, then I don't have to be angry about all of the religious and political standpoints, and I don't have to apologize for them, and I don't have to advocate for them. I can simply get on with living my life, and knowing that if I do that, then God will continue to reveal to me in my life how to stay on that path, stay on this path. So, you know, I realized when I was so angry, and I was angry for a time. I've talked to you about a time when my 2-year-old son walked into a church and he said, "Mommy, look at all the men on the altar." And I froze, and I just wanted to cry, because I thought to myself, okay, I've made peace with this as much as I can right now. But am I giving my son this image that God is male and that priests do have to be men? Am I reinforcing something that I don't agree with? And that was a really painful time in my life, and I felt angry, and that was the thing that struck me the most, is how much anger I have felt in trying to be a woman in the church. And when I'm angry, I can't be spiritual, and that's when I thought, wait a minute, why am I getting shut out of what I love? Because that doesn't seem fair to me, because my spiritual path is way too important, especially at this point in my life, to get shut out of it. And so I'm choosing to stay on it and say, you know, whatever, there's some of this is just never going to fit well. And if there's sort of just finding reconciliation with that, you know, maybe in 100 years, maybe in, you know, with a lot of change that will happen. But right now, this is the church that I have, and these are the tools that I have, and I want to be on that path.
Mm-hmm. Your words kind of remind me of lots of different Catholic women that I've known and worked with that have had similar thoughts, and just that, you know, this is the church of my childhood, of my history. This is the church that I know, and yes, and no, it's not perfect, and yet I choose to stay in this church and be this woman of God who is in the world and moving forward, and, you know, hopeful that change might come, or just just knowing that this is where God is using me in this particular tradition. So it seems like there is a lot of that reconciliation happens a lot for Catholic women. So your journey, your experience of looking at your faith, kind of challenging it, questioning it, coming to terms with it. You're in your mid 30s, I believe, or early 30s, and I'm wondering, do you feel like you represent your kind of generation of Catholics in that kind of quest for reconciliation with the Catholic Church? Do you feel like you represent a constituency of younger Catholics that might be struggling with similar questions?
I think I draw inspiration from a huge group of people who are like-minded thinkers with me, and hopefully I'm giving them something to be inspired by as well. But when you're in a moment of tension, you need support, and so I think that there is a huge group of people who are trying to find the right fit in this church. I spoke at a church earlier this week, and I was so taken aback by the conversation we had, especially within young married couples, and how they were trying to reconcile that within their marriage, because oftentimes one partner is more invested in the religion than the other person is. And so what do you do with your kids? And I mean, this was a really heartfelt conversation we had about how do you make sense out of this? And there was this sense of, I don't know, a wonderful connection in the room because people knew that they weren't alone in it. And I think that what has been probably the most powerful thing in writing my book is having people come and say, this is how I feel too. And thank goodness that not all the press is going in one way, but that there's also this voice that can be added. And I know that I am adding my voice to a whole host of people that have thought these questions and have come to these moments. It's an honor to be a part of this group. So I do hope that in some ways that I can support them because they have tremendously supported me. And the teachers, the mentors, the friends that I've had, they've allowed me to articulate what I know because their experiences have revealed the same thing. Yeah.
Yeah. Now, we were talking a little bit before the interview about how at myself, not a Catholic, but a progressive Protestant, just found all sorts of resonances with your book in terms of claiming a faith as an adult that fits with our experience versus the faith that we might have claimed in our childhood, and so I think this book can speak to lots of people within the Catholic tradition and outside of the Catholic tradition, which is really a gift. And I think it really represents just this major shift that's happening throughout all traditions with younger folks, in that there's much more of a desire and a demand to ask questions and to not accept the kind of traditional answers as truth anymore. And so it feels very inspiring in that sense that you represent and are kind of giving voice to a whole new generation of younger people of faith that are.
I just want to add too, though, that I think that these questions have always been asked, right? I mean, the disciples asked Jesus questions, and if you think back to the tradition, Julian of Norwich, in the Middle Ages, she asked questions about what is the image of God, and so I do think that these questions have always been asked, and now we're giving voice to this particular way of asking them with our iPhones and with our texting and with our Facebook and Skype. What does this faith mean now? And something that I write about in the book is that faith has to be personal. It has to be a part of our everyday life if we're going to pursue it. And my everyday life doesn't include a certain piety that I thought that I had to have in order to be Catholic. My everyday life is just full of stuff, right? And full of the wonderful noise of the everyday life of a North American woman.
That's good.
I just don't think it has to be one certain way. I think that we have to be able to look at our lives and say, what does this dinner conversation mean to me in terms of my faith? And where is the sacrament in learning how to forgive myself when I feel like I failed my children? And not in a huge failing, but just as all mothers feel like, shoot, I wish I wouldn't have said that, or I wish I would have done this a different way. For me, that is why I pursue faith, and that's where I know God speaks to me in my life, and I know that other people want that too. And so when faith is personal, that means it's mixed up with the experiences we have. And if our experiences are counter to what the church is teaching, then we question ourselves and we say, am I Catholic enough? Or another question I've asked is the church too Catholic for me? And I do think that there's a Catholicism in the middle of those two things.
Lovely. That's a beautiful way to say it. And I think that's a great place to end, except for to say that in your book, you really take on a lot of the assumptions and the way you thought you had to be Catholic. And you invite the reader to kind of look at their own lives as well. And you have each chapter ends with some invitations to look back on our own lives, and a meditation and a prayer. So it's a very practical book in that it really helps us walk through this journey as you've done. So thanks for
Thank you, Deborah. This is a great gift to me. It's a real compliment to hear that the book resonates with you outside of my tradition, because I think we're all pursuing the same God.
Yeah.
And so what you've said is just such a compliment to me.
Oh, well, great. Thank you. Well, join us, everyone, at the Patheos Book Club for more on Becoming Catholic Again. I think we have an excerpt you can read. And we also have a lovely video of Catherine reading from the book. So we'll have that as well at the book club. And Georgia wants to say goodbye as well. She's so cute. Thanks, Catherine. Blessings on your pastoral ministry of the everyday and on this book.
Thank you so much.
Bye-bye.